Here we go. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Trench Grenade channel. I am your host, the average history fact enjoyer that your mom said that we have at home. Thanks for watching. Guys, the purpose of today's video is I'm going to give you a quick history lesson on the American Civil War, and I want you to tie in some key themes that you see. There's going to be a very distinct message at the end of this video, so you'll have to stay to the end to actually get the message. Guys, if you enjoy this content, consider becoming a member of the Patreon channel. It's only $5 a month. It gets you access to a Discord server where you can find buddies to train with, game with, stay up late, and talk about all your favorite history lessons. In the comments below, I want you guys to leave an American flag emoji or your favorite history fact about the American Civil War. Okay. Without further delay, the drink for the video is just my protein. As you're seeing this video, if you're watching it on the day of its release, I am in the gym hitting back and biceps. That's why I'm dressed like a weirdo right now. I want you guys, I would encourage you to make sure you get your 10,000 steps today. Make sure you hit whatever muscle group you're supposed to hit and in the gym effectively, and actually do your workout with a good full range of motion. Don't skip your workout. Okay, guys. So, purpose of the video is to discuss some basic facts about the Civil War and see if we can utilize a little bit of a thought experiment to tie it into anything going on in today's world. So, the Civil War. The Civil War was begun over a difference in ideology, okay? Taxes and states' rights, okay? Specifically, one of the things that always gets brought up is slavery. So, certain states that were located in the southern portion of the United States in 1861 wanted to still be able to utilize slavery on a state-by-state basis. They did not want Washington, D.C. to dictate if they could have slaves or how they could run their state. Obviously, Washington, D.C. and many of the northern states wanted to abolish slavery, and they also wanted to be able to dictate what the entire country did. Okay, so we got taxes, slavery, and difference in ideology are all things that led to the pressure point of this beginning. The Civil War began in 1861. Now, before we get into the exact timeline of the Civil War, it is important to know this nation was founded in 1776, okay? That was 247 years ago from the time I'm filming this video. It took us 85 years to have a civil war. I want you guys to really think about that. We were founded in 1776, 247 years ago from today. But it only took us 85 years to 1861, from 1776 to 1861, to begin a civil war over ideology. It has been 159 years since the first Civil War. Okay? I just want you guys to think about that as we go through this video. Keep in mind, this nation was founded upon hard, driven individuals that wanted to be free, okay? So the fact that a change or difference in ideology could lead us to kill our brothers and sisters should really scare you. Okay, timeline, 1861 to 1865. The Union, some key leaders are Abraham Lincoln and Ulysses S. Grant. The Confederacy, Jefferson Davis and Robert E. Lee. Guys, I want to get you out of the habit of saying the North and the South. If you say the North or the South, it generally makes you sound ignorant because it makes you sound like you don't know what you're talking about. So going forward, if anyone says, oh, the South will rise again, the North will rise again, whatever stupid saying they're saying, try to convince them to say, you mean the Union and you mean the Confederacy. The more you know, okay? So these are the two factions that will be fighting. What's not listed up here is the civilians and the slaves that will be directly or indirectly targeted throughout the war. They should have their own portion because they were targeted very heavily throughout this conflict. Okay, next thing I want to discuss is some casualties by type. And I want you guys to tie this in to today. As what I should mention, at the start of the Civil War, the United States population was 31 million. There were only 31 million people. Estimates today are there's over 350 million people living in the United States. So I want you to extrapolate some of these numbers out as I go through these numbers. But the total population was 31 million. If you want to round down to 30 million for your calculations, that's fine. Casualties by type, okay? Before I get into this, I'm going to take some protein drink. Guys, the gun for the video is my Glock 19. It's going to be rolling with me to the gym today. It is an NSR tactical holster. I freaking like it because I can have retention of the trigger guard and I can put it in my Adidas fanny pack and freaking rock and roll, you know what I'm saying? Guys, reminder, if you want to support the channel, consider hitting the like button and dropping a comment below. And the Patreon is what keeps this channel funded. Okay, casualties by type. We're going to start with the red, and the Confederacy is in red for no particular reason, okay? I only have 3 colors, black, green, and red, okay? So, the Confederacy, they have 31,000 dead in prison. That's weird. Why would they die in prison? Because they were drawn to violence based on a change in ideology or difference in ideology. So 31,000 were just killed in prison. 94,000 were killed in action, with a total killed of 290,000 dead on the Confederacy side. 137,000 were wounded in action, and 436,658 were POWs, prisoners of war, with a total casualty count of 864,000 casualties for the Confederates. The Union had 30,000 dead in prison. They had 110,000 killed in action. Now that number, the prison number, so 61,000 died at the hands of their brothers in prison. That's hate, guys. That should scare you. 110,000 were killed in action on the Union side. 230,000 died of disease. 365,000 died on the Union side. 282,000 were wounded in action. 181,000 were prisoners of war. Someone can do the math and see how many died in prison unnecessarily due to a change in ideology and hate and mistreatment. Overall, we had 828,000 casualties, okay, on the Union side. Pretty big numbers down here. Remember, the total population of the United States is 31 million. Let's dive deeper. 50,000 civilians dead. That can be from direct fire, that can be from lack of nutrition, that can be from disease, that can be from being displaced from their homes, okay? 80,000 slaves died. I wonder why that happened. Ideology, hate. Wonder if that can be related to anything else. 31 million was the U.S. population. 10% were dead or wounded at the end of 1861, or at the end of 1865. 10% of the United States population was either dead or wounded or displaced in some notable way, okay? 10% impacted. I want to talk to you about something called Emancipation Proclamation. 3.5 million slaves were freed when Abraham Lincoln announced Emancipation Proclamation. Now, obviously, that's going to differ based on where they were physically located at the time. The reason why it's commonly debated, and I'm not a historian, I'm just simply stating to you the facts. This will be the only portion that is not fact. It is just what I've studied and read. Emancipation Proclamation occurred at a time when the Union Army needed more soldiers. Now, obviously, Abraham Lincoln, as a byproduct of the Civil War, wanted to free the slaves. With that being said, 3.5 million, if you divide that by 2, half of them at least are going to be, or a good portion of them are going to be military-age males. A vast majority of those military-age males would be pushed into service. They'd be forced to serve on the Union side. So yes, was it awesome that Emancipation Proclamation occurred? Correct. However, out of that 3.5 million slaves, all of those military-age males would be forced into service for the Union side. It's just something to think about. It's not, history is not always cut and dry. Most of you know that by now. Okay, so that's Emancipation Proclamation. I want to talk to you guys about some of the small arms that were used, and then we're going to do some quick math. That way we can extrapolate this out to modern times. Okay. Cannons. The average cannon rate of fire for a good crew was 2 rounds per minute. They could fire either grape shot or just a large artillery ball projectile. Springfield, 1861. A good rifleman could fire 3 rounds out of his Springfield 1861. He could fire 3 rounds a minute, okay? If he was really trained and really squared away. 3 rounds per minute. We had the Colt single action, okay, revolver. Pretty self-explanatory. 5, they typically would only load 5 because they couldn't rest the hammer on a round without risking it being bumped and firing. Okay, so 5, typically they would carry 5 rounds in a 6-shot Colt single action. And they would put their money, this is just a key note, if you've gotten this far in the video, put a money emoji down below so I know who my real OGs are and consider becoming a member of the Patreon. For the Colt single action, they would load, it's a 6-shot revolver, they would only load 5 rounds because the hammer would rest, unlike this Glock 19 where the striker, there's no risk of the striker going off unless I intentionally pull the trigger. On the Colt single action, that hammer and that firing pin would rest on one of the rounds. So if you loaded all 6 rounds into the cylinder, the hammer would be resting and the firing pin would be resting on one of the bullets. If it was bumped at all, it could cause that to go off in the holster or wherever it was. So typically, they would only load 5 rounds, leave one round empty, and put their cash, their money, in that one slot where the bullet would go, right, in the cylinder. And then if they died, their buddy would grab their weapon, and that's where their money was. Okay, so that's the Colt single action. Henry rifle, you load it on Sunday and you shoot all week. Okay, they're slow to reload, but everyone knows about the Henry lever action rifle, right? They were rare, but it was there. And then the saber. Okay, the saber and the bayonet were heavily used as well. So, unlike our Colt single action, if I was to just utilize this Glock 19, what percentage of casualties would increase just with everyone armed with a Glock 19 over all the rifles and weapons listed over here? What is the most commonly carried handgun in the United States? It's a Glock 19, okay? 15 plus 1 rounds. Most people carry a 17 round magazine in it. So even if we just use the math from these numbers down here and these numbers up here and assume that these were the types of weapons used, 2 rounds per minute for a cannon crew, 3 rounds per minute for the Springfield, okay? Colt single action, 5 rounds, probably 5 rounds. You could probably reload it in 45 seconds. If you're really squared away, probably a minute to reload, so 5 rounds a minute for the Colt single action revolver. Henry rifle, I believe 10 to 11 rounds, but it takes a while to reload per minute, okay? Or the saber, physically cut them down. Or bayonet, physically bayonet them to death in Minecraft. So even if we just use something basic, like the most commonly carried weapon in the United States, which is a Glock 19 plus 2 17 or 19 round magazines, and we extrapolate out the amount of carnage, if the only weapon used in another civil war due to an issue of ideology was a Glock 19, how would these numbers look? I want to know your estimates down below. Someone's going to be like, yeah, but they had cannons. Okay, I'm saying if every single member of the Civil War lined up in the method they did and shot at each other, what would the casualties look like then? Okay, obviously the only weapon used would not be a Glock 19. It would be semi-automatic rifles with detachable 30-round boxed magazines. It would be machine guns, belt-fed machine guns. It would be hand grenades. It would be Molotov cocktails. It would be tanks. It would be armored personnel carriers. It would be Apache gunships. It would be nuclear weapons, atomic bombs, thermonuclear weapons, hydrogen bombs, tactical nukes. These are the real types of weapons that would be used if we were to have another civil war. Now, if you've gotten this far, this is the message of the video. The world is on fire. There's war in Europe. There's war in the Middle East. There's war in South America. There's war everywhere. The US dollar is failing. Inflation is out of control. And in our own country, I should mention Germany. There's riots in Germany. There's riots in France. Europe has never looked more divided in my lifetime. The world is at war with itself over ideology. So the message of this video is, if we can't come together as a country, regardless of opinion and beliefs, we have to meet each other somewhere. The average American agrees with their neighbor. They agree with their brother. There's only one or two things that they might not agree on. Most of us watching this video could sit down at a table, have a beer, have our protein drink, have a meal, discuss cordially with each other the things we agree and disagree on, and come to some sort of resolution. There is nothing worth the amount of death and carnage that would come from another civil war. If this country was to ever enter into another civil war, the whole world would be in jeopardy. So the message of this video is a quick reminder from history. These people can't speak, they're just a number on a board. All you can see is a green number, a red number, and a couple black numbers on a whiteboard. But let me tell you this. If we can't come together now in the most violent stage of modern human history, okay? If we can't come together right now and figure out our beliefs with each other as brothers and sisters, as neighbors, regardless of if you're a Republican, if you're a liberal, if you're based on your skin, it does not matter. Based on your religion, race, ethnicity, it does not matter. If we can't come together now, the world will fail. We are not the world police, but let me tell you, since World War I, we have had whatever the United States decides to do, this world will do. Either through diplomatic reasons or through force. But the only way that that works, the only way that we can remain safe and free is if we look to our left and right and actually unify. We find out where we agree, we utilize the things we agree on, and the couple things we disagree on, we don't shut down our brother just because they don't agree with the couple things that we don't agree on. We find a middle ground. We find a resolution. Because if we don't find a resolution in our petty differences, we will fail, just as they failed. Just as these 10% dead and wounded with their 3 rounds per minute Springfield, every American that carries a gun has a Glock 19 or equivalent. They have an AR-15. That's the civilians. We have tanks, helicopters, drones, nukes, machine guns, chemical weapons, biological weapons. Guys, we have to come together. We cannot stay divided. We cannot continue this rhetoric of it's time to start a civil war. That is the worst thing that will happen. You and I, watching this video, if that fantasy of yours comes true, we will both most certainly be dead. All right, guys, if you enjoyed this video, consider sharing it with a buddy if you feel like they need to hear this history lesson. If you want to continue seeing videos like this every day, I need you to go over to the Patreon channel and donate less than a cup of coffee a month. It's only $5, and it gets you access to a Discord server where you can find buddies to train with and to game with and to stay up late and build a community with your buddies. Thanks for being here, guys, and until next time, this is going to be Trench Grenade, your average history enjoyer that your mom said that we have at home. Signing out. Cheers.